back in the 90s, I was on tour, a second national tour with a show that featured a pretty important saxophone solo very near the beginning. In the saxophone plays a melody that to which the principal characters first meet, and then they dance, and then they fall in love, and later use that melody as the basis of a song to declare their love to each other. And the saxophonist is on stage, portrayed by an actor, and to make it sound more realistic, there are monitors embedded in the set around where he stands, and just add a little bit of extra theater magic to it. I, or whoever's playing the saxophone part in the show, leaves the pit and does it in another room. And of course, you have headphones and a conductor monitor, microphone, and this way nobody sees anyone else. Nobody who's sitting in the front row can't look down in the pit if the pit is open and see you playing, or somebody might hear you, whatever. So in any case, I know you woodwind doublers love to play Guess the Show, because I see it on social media all the time. Yeah, this was Miss Saigon. You probably knew, for those of you who've played it, knew what I was talking about, and we're not doing that now, but maybe in another video. In any case, and the reason I'm telling this story is because this tour played Pittsburgh for 7 weeks, and those of you of a certain age know who Mr. Rogers was, that Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood was filmed in Pittsburgh, and that he lived there, of course, with his wife and the rest of the cast. And he attended one of the performances with one of the other actors called David Newell, who played Mr. McFeely, and some of the other characters on the show too, I think. And they were there with their wives, and they came backstage after the show was finished. Now, I actually rehearsed what I was going to say to him once I knew he was there and could see him, because, you know, my inner 5-year-old wanted to tell him, like, my whole life, and, you know, and tell him all about my whole life, and that would have been kind of silly. So, you know, I rehearsed in my head, you know, it's an honor. Anyone who saw the show growing up remembers maybe all the great jazz trio, piano trio playing that was on there by the John Costa Trio. So I was going to thank him for that. You know, something just sound, so I would sound not just the usual thank you for my wonderful childhood. As I say, if you're a certain age, you know who I'm talking about. If not, do a quick Google search and you'll figure out that, you know, he was very much beloved. He was a reverend, also an ordained minister, and very much involved with childhood development, and, you know, making sure that people of ages like 2 to 5 were seen and understood, and their feelings were taken seriously, and that they mattered. So, of course, the emotions were running high. People were hugging, and people were getting teary-eyed, and I wasn't going to go there. You know, I was going to be cool. So what happened was, because of the role or the part that I played in the show, he was actually brought to me by one of the other principals in the show, a gentleman who, unfortunately, I have to say, is the late Joseph Ferranda. He was terrific. He played the engineer. And I got to tell you one thing about meeting Mr. Rogers and talking to him. It's like watching his television show, except you're on it. And that's what happened. He said, so was, I said my little shtick, and he said, well, that's very, very kind of you. And that's actually you playing the saxophone. And I'm not going to do the imitation, but you know, the 5-year-old, you know, practically squealed. He's like, yeah, and I went, and I played, and there's a monitor, and you can't see me because it makes it better, and there's the mic, and they play, and then I play. Anyway, so he just said, well, good for you. And I'm like, oh, crap, I'm going to just find now the nearest sewer, and I'm going to jump into it and just say goodnight. Well, I do. But then he said it. He said, isn't it wonderful? It must be wonderful to have, I don't know, something along the lines of, you know, you have these special skills and this unique talent so that you can make people happy every night. Now, unfortunate part of musician culture is we tend to self-deprecate a little too much. I mean, humility is good, but there is that line that we do cross sometimes between just being humble and, you know, what we now know as the humble brag on social media, or just, you can just be annoying, you know. We do need to learn to take compliments sometimes. Guilty. So I said, well, Mr. Rogers, yeah. I said, it's really nice that what we do makes people happy. I understand I'm just a cog in a wheel, but heck, I'll take it. Whatever, something like that. Yeah, you know those old movies when the DJ would be doing this or whatever, and the needle would just go, and then everything would stop. And that's kind of what happened. And dudes in my brain are going, "You just ticked off Mr. Rogers," because he looked at me really seriously. And then just kind of stared at me for a minute, and it felt like he was looking like to the depths of my soul, and I didn't feel unsafe, but I sure felt uncomfortable, and I didn't know what to do. And then he said, he said, "What do you suppose would happen to that wheel if something happened to that cog?" Well, I was going to get out of this one. I said, "You know what, Mr. Rogers," I said, "especially now that we're in Pittsburgh, we could go outside now and find maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, even saxophone players in a matter of minutes who could play that solo just as well. And we'd be all set. Show would go on. And so that will take care of the cog and that'll take care of the wheel, right? Let's not beat that metaphor down, right?" And he just stared at me a little longer and said, "Yeah, but the wheel wouldn't be the same anymore, would it?" Oh, so I'm thinking, okay. I didn't know what to say to that. And Mr. Rogers said, "I'm very proud of you, and I'm very proud of the work that you're doing, and I hope you can learn to be proud of it too. That's really, it's okay to feel proud of the things that we accomplish." He said, "Remember when you were young and we used to sing a song about," and I thought, "Oh God, do not sing or do not even recite lyrics because I will lose it on the spot." And he started with one of the songs. I think it was the one about, "It's you I like and there's only one of you," or something like, I don't know. And I started reciting along. I thought that was my defense. And you're like, "That's right. Yeah." He said, "So, I don't know." At that point, I think his wife interrupted and pulled him away and said, "I need you to meet so-and-so." I don't know, because at that point, everything was just like blurry. Look, the point is, it's very easy to feel expendable in this business. Yeah. And, we bring in substitutes or sometimes we're the substitute. But no matter, and as I've mentioned elsewhere, your job is to try to emulate whoever it is you are, for whom you are subbing, or if you're the regular, to lay down something that's so clear that you can be imitated. The fact remains, our individuality can't be denied. It's just there, and it's valued. And even if by no one else, it should be valued by you. I don't know how you feel about this. I'd love to talk to you more about it. Drop something in the comments, and I'd love your point of view, especially if you sub or dep. I've just learned this word dep. I still don't quite know where that comes from, but if you've been depping or subbing, or as a principal, I'd love to have a discussion. But meanwhile, it's something to think about. It's another one of those little pearls that just kind of I didn't expect to get that one. Kind of came out of nowhere. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one.